Hi, everyone. My name is Andrew Nalani, and welcome to my presentation, Creative Empowerment, an Imperative for Youth and Adults in Uncertain Times. I am a PhD candidate at New York University, but I also collaborate with an organization called Partners for Youth Empowerment in a research practice partnership. And so this presentation will offer a rationale for why creative empowerment matters in the times that we are living in, and particularly in youth education. And I offer a case example of Partners for Youth Empowerment's model that has been developed over the last 20 years and applied in various contexts that fosters creative empowerment. A lot of the conversation right now around why creativity matters has been focused on the future of work and the kinds of skills that are going to be needed over the next decade or more. And creativity ranks among the top 5 skills that employers say are going to be critical for thriving in the world. But more specifically for youth who are looking out to the future, they're looking at a future that is riddled with challenges because of climate change, and the other less acknowledged challenge that is this crisis of connection. So we have at the very, very macro level, we have issues of climate change, we have issues of the future of work and the changing nature of work. But there's this other, from the science on developmental psychology, there is an acknowledged crisis of connection that not only youth experiencing a world that is increasingly divided, and a world that is wrought with inequalities, both structural inequalities, relational inequalities, but that world also creates this a challenge of connecting with oneself and connecting with others. And the argument I'm trying to make here is that this world is complex. Yes, it's ambiguous, but nurturing creativity allows us to adapt and to thrive in spite of these challenges: the crisis of connection, the changing nature of work, and the challenges that are related to climate change and all of the other complexities that come with it, and increasing inequality, and all the way at the macro level, but also in our individual and relational lives. And so in this kind of world, it becomes necessary to nurture what we're calling creative efficacy, or that confidence in one's ability to use their creativity to impact their world. And in the work that Partners for Youth Empowerment has done and has been able to do over the last 20 years is to really identify the processes, and also the processes, the practices, and the principles around what it means to nurture each individual's creative efficacy. And Partners for Youth Empowerment defines creativity as the capacity to think something up and make it happen in the world. And this definition of creative efficacy or creative confidence is one that has also been used by other prominent programs like the Stanford D Lab that try to nurture creative efficacy in participants. Again, from the world of breeding the worlds of developmental psychology and neuroscience, there is an increasing acknowledgement that the teenage brain responds to contexts that support their risk-taking, that support their own creativity, and also contexts that provide opportunities for adolescents to contribute in significant ways to others. These 2 key points are critical as I walk through the simpler version of the theory of change for Partners for Youth Empowerment's model. Like neuroscience is increasingly telling us that usually we've tended to think of adolescent brains as as one that I'm impulsive or not able to regulate. But the other side of the coin, the other side of the story is that teenage brains are really poised for taking creative risks, for acquiring skills. And this Washington Post quote particularly I find striking because it really identifies that this capacity to take creative risks is what really prepares adolescents for the kind of learning, skill acquisition, and creativity that is central to an adult life. And when I think of the current context that we are living in, the current context that young people are looking at, or the future that they are looking at, that is riddled with ambiguity and complexity, being able to adapt to that world, being able to learn through life in that world, and being able to make something up, to think it up, and make it happen in the world in a way that is useful, not just for oneself, but also for others, becomes a central skill set. And so briefly going over Partners for Youth Empowerment, or PYE's creative empowerment model, it is a model that has been crafted really since over the last 23 years. And the model bridges three distinct elements and integrates them. So arts-based practices, experiential learning, and group facilitation. And it bridges or integrates all of the three elements to create environments that nurture creative efficacy, or what they call creative empowerment. And here empowerment is defined as increasing the strength and confidence to enact the life we envision for ourselves, our communities, and the world. Worth noting is that each of these three elements, experiential learning, leading edge facilitation, arts-based practices, are acknowledged as modalities, key modalities for transformative learning, especially in the adult development world. Each of these three elements separately are acknowledged as key to promoting transformative education. However, the Partners for Youth Empowerment has integrated them into a powerful model for nurturing creative efficacy, with the central piece being the arts-based practice that is baked into each element of programming. This model is unique because it provides a systematic approach for youth educators to develop creative confidence, not just for themselves, but also for the youth who are in programs under their purview. The creative empowerment model results not just in creative self-efficacy, that individual confidence to think something up and make it happen in the world. What makes the creative empowerment model unique is that it supports creative confidence, but in addition to that, adults have a clear responsibility to hold safe containers for youth, but they also take creative risks right along with the young people. The result of this is that it encourages shared leadership among young people and adults, and that supports the development of a whole range of different additional life skills in addition to creative efficacy. The model is also flexible and easily adaptable across cultural contexts. It has been adapted in 16 different countries as of 2020. And the way that scaling has happened is that the Partners for Youth Empowerment trains adults who are based in different youth serving organizations, and the adults become the deliverers of programs using the creative empowerment model. So it's less of a program per se and more of a specific approach of working with young people. And so Partners for Youth Empowerment takes this train the trainer approach to scale the impact of the model. So in this stage, I'm going to briefly walk through the theory of change for the creative empowerment model. Adults in organizations are trained in the model. The key outcomes for individual adults are nurturing their own creative self-efficacy. There is work by leading researchers out of the Harvard Graduate School of Education, Dr. Robert Keegan, Lisa Leahy, and colleagues, that show that when adults have access to learning environments that nurture their own development, they can do the same for the youth or for the students who are under their instructions. And so the trainings, Partners for Youth Empowerment's trainings really support adults' own creative self-efficacy. They equip adults with a range of arts-based tools that they can use as facilitators of learning. They learn different ways of crafting dynamic programs, and also facilitative competencies that they can use in delivering those programs. There are components of personal development ranging from understanding, why did I come in education in the first place, all the way to how do I respond when I get triggered, to what is my own, what identities do I bring to my role, and how do those identities influence the work that I do. And finally, adults who have been trained in this model begin to view young people from a lens of possibility rather than one of deficit. When adults are trained in this model and they're equipped with a range of arts-based activities, they know how to design and facilitate creative empowerment programs, they create a highly effective learning environment that has three specific components that support creative efficacy. The first one is psychological safety, the feeling that I can take risks in a group without feeling like the group is, or the team or the group is going to be judgmental and towards me. The second element in this model is shared leadership. As I mentioned earlier, the creative empowerment model asks adults to really face the blank page right along with the young people. And so when adults are designing programs, there is there's a degree of open-endedness to the program, where the adults and young people lean into discovery rather than the adult being the person who knows everything. And so in other work, work that I also focus on, the other term that is used commonly is youth-adult partnership or youth voice. So adult and young people are able to share power together, and the arts become critical here because they provide a shared language between adults and young people. The third element that this model allows adults to ensure that it's present in a learning environment is this notion of healthy challenge. The creative empowerment model prepares adults to invite young people to take increasing levels of creative risk. When adults are able to maintain a space that is rich in psychological safety, shared leadership, and healthy challenge, they activate they're able to invite creative expression from individuals, but also activate their motivation and their attention for behavior change towards more desired possible selves. Increased creative expression allows people to gain more confidence in their own creativity, and the motivation and attention to move towards a more desired possible selves is then what allows for this whole range of life skills and now I'm sharing a couple of quotations that come from young people. So these are young people's voices themselves that are, these quotes come from a thematic analysis that I conducted, trying to understand what do young people themselves say they gain out of the kinds of environments shaped by the creative empowerment model. There are 4 youth leadership camps that are in Partners for Youth Empowerment's partner organization network, and I invited these organizations these organizations run youth leadership programs, and I invited them to distribute surveys that try to capture what young people say they get out of these kinds of trainings. And I did a thematic analysis to try to get to patterns that are in their comments. One of the key patterns that emerged was that this learning environment matters. And young people were talking about feeling that this kind of learning environment is one that is unique. It's one where they can be themselves, and it's one where everyone feels included. Here are some more quotations from young people. I think it's noteworthy that youth themselves pick up on the kinds of environments that do not respect them or take them seriously. And an environment that nurtures their creative efficacy is one that also allows them to share power with adults. And this particular quote for me inspires for me why education should really center creativity and creative efficacy in its purposes. This quote comes from their book, and they wrote that the generation of youth coming of age today will be asked to navigate, survive, and if they can, help heal the world they have inherited. Thank you so much for tuning in to this presentation, and I look forward to answering questions. And for those who are interested, there will be a workshop that walks you through, a 90-minute workshop that will give you a sense of how this kind of environment comes to be using the creative empowerment model.